I grew up on Cape Breton Island, a small, uniquely shaped landmass at the northern tip of Nova Scotia. Itself a small, uniquely shaped landmass on the east coast of Canada. It's an island that most people I've met couldn't point to on a map if they had a gun to their head, assuming they'd heard of it at all. And in many ways, despite its stunning natural beauty, the occasional accolade from international tourism groups, or brief moments of fame whenever a Hollywood celebrity discovers it, the island always seems to eventually slip out of view. Which is fitting, I suppose. The Mi'kmaq word for my former home is Unama'ki, which, when translated loosely, means land of fog. It's a name that perfectly encapsulates everything the island is, a metaphor that speaks to the lived experience of its inhabitants, past and present. There's an undeniable comfort and beauty in fog, an awe-inspiring sense of the sublime. The melancholy coziness of a rainy day, the promise of something bigger tucked just out of view. But fog also invokes images of danger. The jagged shoreline that will send a vessel crashing to the shore. The endless darkness that can swallow a sailor, with nothing but a story left behind. It's the shroud that blinds you as you try to navigate a twisting cliffside road or a gnarled forest path. It is the image that most clearly represents everything I've come to know about Cape Breton. Its history, its stories, its music, the history of my friends and family, their stories, my history. And that image and those stories share common threads. There is an arc of tragedy that cuts through the narrative of the island, a downbeat present in every song. It's not something you'll see in the aerial shots from Cape Breton tourism or the many travel vlogs on YouTube from visitors admiring the Cabot Trail. But it's there. And the moment you step foot onto the island, you'll start to notice the fog seeping through the cracks. The haunting images of tired miners at the Glace Bay Miners Museum, their faces caked in coal, their eyes often the only clear part of the image. You'll see numerous memorials, monuments to those same miners who were lost in the dark. You'll see abandoned buildings, empty churches, faded signs. You'll see the signs of communities in decline. But those tourist photos aren't lies. You will see breathtaking beauty, fall colors that you'd think were doctored if you weren't looking at them with your own eyes. You will see pride in those very same communities, and the kind of generous hospitality that only comes from people who've all had to go without at one time or another. You'll also hear stories. Cape Bretoners are natural storytellers. If you spend more than 5 minutes with any one of us, you'll be assaulted with them. You'll leave wondering if half of what you heard was real, our peculiar accent and the percussive cadence of our speech still in your ears. It doesn't matter if you hear those stories at a pub, a theater, or a Tim Hortons. We'll leave you with a few. Trust me. We can turn anything into a story. Anything.
People in Sydney say they want something to be done about the growing rat problem. John McLean has lived in the same house for 27 years. But lately, he says there's been more critters scurrying around.
Last 3 years, triple. It's just, they're everywhere. Summertime, me and my neighbors sitting out in the step out front, and we looked across the street. We counted 23 rats coming underneath the house, from underneath the house.
McLean says an illegal dump site in a fire lane near his home is part of the problem.
Well, there's garbage in the alleyway there, and that has something to do with the rats coming around here. I mean, they're that big, I seen a rat chase a cat the other day. Seriously.
We're also funny as hell. Often unintentionally, but sometimes even intentionally. Especially when we're making fun of ourselves.
Hi sexies, it's Tracy Hunt. Today I'm down at the Big Fiddle in the Sydney waterfront, and I'm going to be talking to the passengers getting off that boat, seeing what they're all about, and seeing what their intentions are coming to Sydney. Hi, how's she going by?
Hi, how's she going by?
Being a Cape Bretoner, we can usually spot tourists like a mile away, and you want to know how we can?
Tennis shoes?
Rich says he got a lot of money,
Yes.
and he's looking to spend his money.
Yes.
And I'm looking for a man.
All right, we gotta get along good.
Here, I found these two poor souls locked inside checking on emails. Imagine, that's how bored they are. I'm just wondering if you can locate Cape Breton on a map. That's Newfoundland, hon, but you're close. Yeah. I'm just going to give you some tips on how to talk to the Cape Breton people. And so you walk up to someone, you see them on the street, right? You're going to say, hi, how are you? Look them right in the eyes, look dead in the eyes, say, hi, how are you?
Hi, how's she going by?
A little bit faster.
Hi, how's she going by?
Yeah, and I don't care if you've seen the same person 6, 7 times, you look them dead in the eye, hi, how are you? Now see that behind you? That's the biggest working fiddle in all the world.
Wow.
Now, can you list some of our major industries here?
Sending people that used to work in the mine out west to work on the store.
Exactly right.
I would assume fishing or something like that.
Yeah, mostly it's call centers and pizza places, though.
What are they called?
Call centers, like people sit in the booth and they call people overseas and they say, hey, you want to buy this?
There was coal, I think. Tourism.
Used to be steel.
My God, these people know a lot about Cape Breton, and they're from Australia. Imagine that. Do you know Jimmy Rankin?
No. Is he an acid rocker?
No, he's a musician, ever handsome, dreamboat.
Well, there, you gotta hook up with him.
What would you recommend we could do here?
Go to Glace Bay and Waterford. Now, them two towns were the old coal mining towns. I'll tell you, they got a lot of nice duck ponds. You can go on a coal mine tour. A couple chip trucks. You can walk around the brook and feed the ducks. Well, thanks for talking to me today, Rich. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you enjoy the island. Oh, yous are going to do fine. You get out. Go check out Glace Bay and Waterford, okay? Yeah, thank you. Have a good day.
What's the matter?
I'm 34 and I'll never be able to afford a house.
Because you're lazy?
No, because houses in my city are $2 million.
Well, I know where you can move. A beautiful, magical fairy tale place.
Where?
Cape Breton Island, where you can buy a house for $200,000.
Wow, it's beautiful.
When it's not raining, at least.
Oh, a lot of rain?
Every single damn day of the year.
And the temperature?
Freezing cold, 14 months out of the year.
But there are only 12 months.
2 extra on the island on account of how cold she gets. Chillawary and Frozember.
Well, is there lots to do?
You like Celtic music?
No.
You like golf?
No.
Then the answer is no.
Well, at least I'll be close to Halifax if my friends visit.
Halifax is a staggering 4.5-hour drive away. Your friends will think you died.
Well, geez. The food must be good. It can't be all seafood and fries, can it?
My dear, you're not going to like the answer to that.
Really?
Every restaurant here is named after an ocean bird, like the rusty seagull or the horny albatross.
Well, are the people nice?
Nicest people in the world. To your face.
Oh. Well, I guess I'm moving to Cape Breton then.
Yippee! Another satisfied customer. By the way, there are sharks here now, too.
Sharks?
Play the music!
Cape Breton, die alone in Cape Breton.
That's the jingle for the island?
Yes.
Okay.
The jokes might feel overly harsh, but capers are nothing if not self-deprecating. And there's more to this than simple humility or a dark sense of humor. There's a shared understanding amongst people who live or who have lived on the island. Things have never been all right here. Not completely. Whether it's a collapsing coal or steel industry, a history of labor abuses valiantly resisted by local heroes, rough weather and rougher seas that can upend a season or longer, or the infamous, toxic, and near legendary Sydney tar ponds. The image of the island we all have, and have had since we were children, is harsh and often dangerous. It's everywhere, from casual dinner table conversations about the economy, about fleeing doctors, overcrowded emergency rooms, the drug crisis. Struggle is a theme in all our art. We've never shied away from the realities of the island. Sometimes we go as far as to shout about them. There's an incredible graphic novel called Ducks, written by Kate Beaton, about her time working in the Alberta oil sands. Hailing from Cape Breton herself, Beaton grew up in Mabou, a small community on the west side of the island. The novel is beautifully written, wonderfully illustrated, and an unflinching look at the narrow paths many Cape Bretoners need to walk in order to make a life for themselves. Upon graduating from Mount Allison University, my own alma mater, Beaton leaves the Maritimes for Alberta's oil industry as a way of paying off her mounting student loan debt. Her experiences working in the oil sands range from funny to uplifting to dangerous and tragic. While I never worked in the oil sands myself, her story is a familiar one. Friends and family of mine all made the same journey. For a lot of the people I grew up with, it was one of the few paths that was open to them. Going out west for months out of the year or longer and living in the isolation of Alberta's north is such a common experience for Cape Bretoners that it's often talked about in a kind of shorthand. It's an extension of the story of the island itself, having to do difficult, dangerous, and backbreaking manual labor to pay the bills and feed your family, often at the cost of rarely seeing them. And leaving Cape Breton is as much a part of being from Cape Breton as anything else. I myself left home as soon as I graduated from high school and have been back only a handful of times ever since. It's also something that I knew I'd have to do even when I was a child. For a Cape Bretoner, imagining what you wanted to be when you grew up almost always included asking yourself the question, where else do I want to live? Beaton sums up this feeling perfectly in a passage early in the book, and there's no way to do the passage justice without relaying it in its entirety. Cape Breton used to export fish, coal, and steel. But in 2005, its main export is people. It's not a unique story in Atlantic Canada, nor is it a new one. Every Cape Breton family has had its share of empty chairs around the table for 100 years. Fathers, siblings, cousins, gone to the Boston States, gone to Ontario, gone to Alberta, gone to be cheap labor where booming industries demanded it. The only message we got about a better future was that we had to leave home to have one. We did not question it, because this is the have-not region of a have-not province, and it has not boomed here in generations. I need to tell you this. There is no knowing Cape Breton without knowing how deeply ingrained two diametrically opposed experiences are. A deep love for home, and the knowledge of how frequently we have to leave it to find work somewhere else. This push and pull defines us. It's all over our music, our literature, our art, and our understanding of our place in the world. To have not is a mental state as well as an economic one. And if the better future is elsewhere, the present is full of news conferences where important men crush local industries like a cigarette under a shoe, while people with accents like my own desperately demand to know how they will live now. I learned that I can have opportunity, or I can have home. I cannot have both, and either will always hurt. As quiet and unassuming as the island is, There's a small handful of films, television shows, and documentaries about us and by us, all of which cannot help but explore these themes. It would be impossible not to. They are what makes us, us. That push and pull of the island that Beaton speaks of is one of the strongest through lines in all of these works. We'll look at a number of these stories by the time the video is done, but the first one, despite being set in the 70s, is what most accurately captures the memories I have of my home. In all its humor, quirkiness, despair, and hope. This is a story about a girl from New Waterford.
I wasn't really born here, you know. When I was a tiny infant, my real mother, a famous opera singer, dropped me from a silver jet as she passed over what she saw as a beautiful, tropical coastline. God's country.
I'm only going into Sydney and right back home to feed the dogs, Mooney.
Yeah, I know.
Making a living the old hard way.
Directed by Alan Moyle and written by Tricia Fish, New Waterford Girl tells the story of Agnes Marie Potty, or Mooney, a teenage girl living in the Cape Breton town of New Waterford. Mooney, to put it mildly, does not fit in. Not with her town, not with her family, not with her peers. She's artistic, bookish, and desperate to flee for somewhere, anywhere else. She spends her days reading about more metropolitan cities and brags about her knowledge of them in the opening monologue of the film. Naturally, this doesn't sit well with the people around her, who find her admittedly off-putting cynicism a bit difficult to take. But despite the lack of opportunities on the island, she, with the help of her teacher Cecil Sweeney, has managed to secure a scholarship to an arts high school in the States. And her family isn't having it.
Absolutely not. You're only 15 years old.
And you're not mentally stable. You've been cracked ever since you come back from Toronto, haven't you?
I never went to Toronto. That was Betty Ann, and she never even left the hotel room.
Why do you want to torture yourself about this, child? I don't want to discuss it. We don't want to discuss it any further.
It's an arts high school. In Manhattan, New York.
In the States. In the States.
Listen to me. Now you listen to me. We all had dreams, you know? All of us. What do you think? We just woke up one morning and there's 5 kids there?
What did you dream about, Dad?
I dreamed I had somewhere to piss.
As Mooney navigates her relationship with her parents, she develops an unlikely friendship with Lou Benzoa, a New Yorker who's fled to the island with her mother after her boxer father gets himself into trouble with the law. Lou is the optimistic foil to Mooney's Daria-like pessimism, and despite her situation, she manages to crack Mooney's aloof exterior. That is, after a bit of a rough start.
This is great. So you gonna give me the grand tour?
Okay. My house. Your house. There's the shore. The mine. The main drag. Hospital. Tavern. Church. Tavern. Church. Church. Rink. School. Train station. Road to Sydney.
While Waterford Girl is billed as a comedy, and it certainly has a Napoleon Dynamite kind of quirkiness that helps it fit that description, there's a darkness creeping at the edges of the film. From the establishing shots of derelict buildings to the poverty peeking through the sets in each scene, there's even a running subplot in the background of the film about young girls being preyed upon by older men, being left pregnant and sent away to Antigonish, where they'll be forced to give up their babies for adoption. This latter plot is something Mooney will take advantage of later to facilitate her escape from her hometown. But at the beginning of the film, it serves as a reminder that where she lives simply isn't safe. Even her teacher, set up initially to be a mentor and champion for her, struggles with his own inappropriate infatuation with his star student. He never acts on these feelings, and he at least has the self-awareness to understand that it's wrong, but the relationship between the two of them is naturally tainted by the end of the film. The push and pull that Beaton wrote about in Ducks is here too. One of the most important aspects of Mooney's art school opportunity is the fact that it's paid for. Her family isn't going to be burdened financially. It's fully supervised, so the risk to Mooney's safety isn't an issue either. In fact, she's likely safer in New York than she would be in New Waterford. Her family's resistance to her going is simply a dismissiveness of her own dreams and autonomy, and a fear of losing her, of her becoming another empty chair around the dinner table. Her family has resigned themselves to the small-town life that has been thrust upon them, dismissing her excitement at the prospects of going away to study with a kind of cruel scorn.
So, Mooney.
Lexter?
Well, you just stop with a Mexico sign?
Mooney, that's a joke, right? You never know. Maybe I'm practicing. What if I get a scholarship?
Yeah, like, that'll happen. She doesn't know any better anyway.
You should. It's embarrassing.
The weight of her family's refusal eventually dulls her own excitement, and she resigns herself to a career in nursing, one of the few good jobs on the island for women, and a track that is so predictable that her family has already purchased her a uniform, which she begins to wear semi-ironically throughout the film. But Cecil, despite his own resentment of the prospect of her leaving, continues to push her.
What's wrong with you?
I don't know what I was thinking.
What do you mean?
I can't go to New York.
Why not?
It's breaking their hearts.
Oh. That's normal.
Not for me.
Ah.
What? Maybe you could say something to them.
No, I can't talk to them. I can't talk to your parents.
Why not?
Look, I got you the scholarship. Now it's up to you.
What? You could convince them I'm not crazy because you're a teacher.
Yeah, who wants to seduce you?
Pardon?
Look, you'll figure it out. Use that imagination.
I need your help.
Don't yell at me.
Well, I'm not yelling.
Look, you don't need me. You don't need me at all. If you want to go to New York, then you go to New York. Okay? I'm the guy who lives in the trailer. No one is listening to me.
What's the matter with you?
Nothing is the matter with me. Nothing. This is it. This is me. Out of school. You know, I don't exactly leap out of that roll-away bed in the morning.
I love the tension in this scene. Cecil has failed in the pursuit of his own dreams, and Mooney is the embodiment of that bold, free spirit that he likely once was. It's probably one of the reasons he's drawn to her. And despite everything, his jealousy, his own poverty, his predatory possessiveness over her, he knows she would be better off somewhere else, and he wants to see her leave. In his own way, he wants to save her. He can't, though. She'll need to save herself. After an encounter at a party and a conversation with her sisters, she realizes she can craft an escape route on her own. If she can convince her family that she's pregnant, she can get an all-expense-paid trip to Antigonish, which would give her enough time and enough distance from her family to sneak away to New York.
Mooney, be careful, or you get a wholly unpaid vacation, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, straight to Antigonish, all right? This is our wisdom.
Thank you. My idea is devious, sinful, and inspired.
This plan, admittedly, has more than a few holes in it, but it serves to highlight her desperation and the determination she has to be somewhere, anywhere else. She's also clever enough to know that she doesn't even have to sleep with anyone. The gossipy and overly conservative nature of her hometown can be used to her advantage. All she needs to do is let the rumor mill start spinning, and that'll be enough to convince her parents that she's pregnant. She's helped along in her plan by Lou, who herself has developed a reputation for having a mean right hook and has been enlisted by the women in the town to go on a bit of a revenge tour, delivering some old-school justice to cheating ex-boyfriends and deadbeat dads.
That kid, she's always working. What's wrong with her?
I know. She's a freak. You wouldn't catch me working that hard, I'm telling you.
Hey! This you?
Yeah.
He's way taller than she said.
Yeah, I'm tall, eh?
Patty sent me.
Frig off.
You promised her you'd buy her a crib.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna buy her a pony.
Oh, man!
The two Thelma Louise it across New Waterford, with Mooney breaking hearts and Lou breaking jaws. There's a lot in New Waterford Girl that should be familiar to anyone who grew up in Cape Breton. The scenic shots of the industrial area I grew up in are incredible, as is the performance of Nicholas Campbell, the actor who plays Mooney's father, Francis. Rough, simmering with anger, but also deeply caring, he's a perfect encapsulation of a very particular kind of Cape Breton man, especially from that time period. There's also the jokes, some of which are so weird and obscure that they'd fly over the head of anyone who didn't grow up here.
Well, I liked it anyway. Not bad.
Thanks, Joey.
Class is over, Joey. Go eat some halibut.
How'd you like it if I told all the boys you tried to jump me?
Fine. Do it then.
You're playing head games. You know what, Mooney Potty? Lots of cool girls from Sydney and Glace Bay and up the reserve, they call me up all the time.
Think we could go to a party this weekend? Dad?
What? What are all you guys doing in this house anyway? Shouldn't you be out there getting a job and getting your own place to live and everything? How old are you? Am I talking to the wall here? How old are you?
I'm 8. I just started my grade 3.
Old enough for the mind's by.
So we can go to the party, right?
The comment Francis makes to Mooney's younger brother about working in the mines is almost word for word something I would hear from my uncle, himself an ex-miner. It's something a lot of us heard growing up. The intonation, the accent, the gesture is so quintessentially Cape Breton, I was surprised to find out he was actually born in Toronto. There's also one particular moment that hit me in a way I wasn't expecting. And it's a moment that I've read criticism of for being overwrought and sentimental. But for me, it's one of the truest scenes in the film. And I think most people who grew up in Cape Breton can remember summer nights that looks almost exactly like this one.
I was with them again, out on the mire on warm afternoon. Old men go fishing with black line and spoons, and if they catch nothing, they'll never complain. I wish I was with them again. Can you imagine a piece of the universe more fit for princes and kings? I'll trade you 10 of your cities for Marion Bridge and the pleasure it brings. Boys on the boats.
It's a scene that demonstrates Mooney's deep connection to the island, something she'll never be able to fully detach from. And it's one that equally demonstrates Lou's disconnection. She lives in Cape Breton, but she'll never be from Cape Breton. It's also at this point that Mooney's plan starts to unravel. The boys in the town have figured out that despite the rumors that have been circling Mooney, none of them have actually slept with her. And Joey threatens to tell her family. A deal is struck between Lou and Joey to fight in a local town boxing match, and, if she's victorious, Joey agrees to keep Mooney's secret. And Lou wins the fight. And Joey tells Mooney's dad anyway. There's something both deeply infuriating and profoundly tragic about Joey's choice here. Much like her family, Joey can't bear to see her leave and refuses to grant her any agency in that choice. He claims it's out of love, but he's really just one more aspect of the island that refuses to let her go. I remember my final year in Cape Breton, just before I graduated high school. I was always of the opinion that I would leave as soon as the final bell rang, and when it became clear to the adults around me that those intentions were real and that those plans were in motion, I noticed a peculiar shift in the way people would talk to me. Family members would ask me why I wasn't staying on the island, or try to offer me alternatives, or suggest that I was just wasting my time and money by leaving. There would be snarky comments disguised as jokes about how I thought I was too good for my hometown. There was a growing resistance to me striking out on my own. But it didn't just come from family. One bizarre encounter that I'll always remember is a conversation I had with an older gentleman, probably somewhere in his 60s, while exiting my town's library. He knew me, but I didn't know him. Not an entirely uncommon dynamic in a place where the phrase, "Who's your father?" is often used as a substitute for hello. He asked me what I was doing after graduation, and I explained to him where I was going to school and what I was going to study and what my career plans were after. I remember the snort and the sardonic, sideways smile on his face when he told me, "Yeah, everyone always has plans. They always end up back here in the end." It's impossible, despite how hard you try, to not feel a sense of sympathy for Joey here. His motivations are selfish, but most of us know someone like Joey. Unlike Mooney, he won't make it off the island. He's destined to watch his friends and family slowly drift away from him. His prospects are limited. Mooney recognizes this as well, and her initial anger gives way to empathy and a kind of survivor's guilt.
I told your dad you're a virgin.
What?
I'm saving you. I love you.
I'm so sorry, Joey.
His sabotage of Mooney's plan is less about rage or jealousy, and more about panic and a deep sense of loss. We know how his story is going to end, and he does too. Mooney seems to have lost in the end, but hilariously, Francis doesn't come to the conclusion that Mooney isn't pregnant. Instead, he does the math, and realizing the inappropriate connection that she has with Cecil, figures that her teacher might be the father. Watching Cecil's confusion give way to a dawning realization of what's going on here is incredible. But rather than contradicting her dad, he decides to sacrifice his reputation for her in a scene that's funny, icky, a tiny bit sweet, and deeply uncomfortable all at the same time.
Wait! Listen to me. I have to tell you something.
Mooney! It's time everybody knew.
Everyone knew what?
What are you doing?
You gonna let me play the hero or what?
Holy Mother of God.
And Mooney's mother reacts, well, in a way you'd expect a mother played by Mary Walsh to react.
Okay. Okay, that's it!
Cookie?
Mom?
Cookie!
Mom!
Charlie?
With her plans salvaged, Mooney packs up and climbs aboard the train, ostensibly heading to Antigonish. But it's here that she suddenly has second thoughts. Looking at her family together, remembering her home and her connection to it, she makes a last-minute decision to stay.
I don't want to go. I want to stay.
Now you listen to me. Get back on that train right this instant. Stop.
There's something all-knowing in the look her mother gives her as she waves goodbye to her daughter. And it's clear that somewhere along the way, her mother has figured out what's actually going on.
Dear Agnes Marie, you be a good girl in New York City. No one else home knows that you're anywhere but Antigonish. I guess I'll break it to him eventually. We all love you very, very much. Ma.
That moment of departure, of watching family, friends, and the island itself drift out of view is something almost everyone on Cape Breton experiences at one point or another. For most, it's a recurring theme, an ever-present beat that we all keep time with. It's another way we track our seasons, another verse in a song we've played for generations, one that, in all likelihood, we'll be playing for a while yet.
Ask me anything. I know Lexter Potty cried with happiness when they named the triplets Rudy, Joy, and Brenda. I know all the street names. I know how to reuse a tea bag. I know what they do up number 11. I know how to beat the crap out of someone. I know all about God's country. Ask me anything.
And when faced with the regular storms of the island, the ones that wash away industries and opportunity and family from us, what is there left to do but sing?
When the light glows dark with the forces of creation across stormy sky, we look to reincarnation to explain our lives. Explain our lives as if a child could tell us why. That as sure as the sunrise, sure as the sea, sure as the wind in the trees, we rise again in the faces of our children. We rise again in the voices of our song. We rise again in the waves out on the ocean.
It's impossible to talk about Cape Breton without talking about coal mining. And it's impossible to talk about coal mining in Cape Breton without talking about the Men of the Deeps. Established in 1966, the choir consists of working and retired miners, all living and performing on the island. When it comes to our mining history, both celebratory and tragic, they're the keepers of the flame, a kind of working-class bardic tradition whose music punctuated most of my childhood. I've been to their concerts, heard their music on television and radio, and learned much of the history of my home through their stories. Mining and music might seem like odd bedfellows, but of course there's a long tradition of Irish and Scottish folk songs centered around working-class exploits. And music is such a deeply ingrained part of Cape Breton culture that it would be more surprising if something like a miners' choir didn't spring up here. Stylistically speaking, the choir is what you'd expect. Often folksy and fun, the Men of the Deeps are, at times, the kind of quaint attraction that seems engineered in a lab to attract tourists. Bouncy little ditties like Mary Ann and the Cape Breton coal miners are just amusing and cute enough to lull you into a false sense of security. Until they hit you with one of these.
One winter's morn in 79, as the snow lay still without, was 4 o'clock on a 26 wall, as the 16 moved about. An explosion ripped and it rocked the pit, as smoke from the bottom began to spit, and the silence left would now admit there are 10 men gone. 10 men gone, no time to cry or bid farewell, but the mind of Glace Bay long will dwell on her 10 men gone.
The number 26 colliery explosion is one of the many, many mining disasters that I grew up hearing about. Located in Glace Bay, the mine was one of the more notoriously dangerous ones, with numerous fires and injuries occurring toward the end of its operation. In 1973, 6 miners were injured when a fire broke out in the colliery. 2 years later, another series of fires would interrupt daily mining operations. And finally, on the morning of the 24th of February, 1979, a continuous miner struck a deposit of sandstone, causing it to spark and igniting the methane contained within the mine. 10 miners were instantly killed in the subsequent explosion, with 6 more being seriously injured. 2 of the 6 later succumbed to their injuries after being transported to Halifax. Glace Bay is a small town on a small island, and everyone I know who was alive at that time has vivid memories of that morning. If you were a healthcare worker in the industrial area, you would have been startled out of bed by a call-in for a mass casualty event. The agonizing hours and days that followed left the island haunted and in mourning. You can still see the names of those miners, and more besides, etched into stone monuments in every town. If you can believe it, the mine actually continued to operate until 1984, when another fire broke out, taking one more life with it. That was apparently enough to finally tip the scales, and afterward the mine officially ceased operation. Tragedy hangs over the mining industry in Cape Breton, and consequently, tragedy hangs over Cape Breton itself. There are almost no families back home that aren't touched by the mines in one way or another, and it makes sense that so much of our art takes place underground. The Men of the Deeps are one such example. The Joyce Barkhouse novel Pit Pony is another, which was also turned into a film and later a television series that weirdly starred one of the people I went to school with. But one of the more famous, or infamous stories, is one by Sheldon Curry. The Glace Bay Miners Museum, as it was originally titled, was, somewhat ironically, first published in 1979. It later became the basis for the film Margaret's Museum, which was directed by Mort Ranson and starred Helena Bonham Carter. Originally marketed as a quaint romantic drama, Margaret's Museum pulls one of the most vicious heel turns I've ever seen in a film. Its ending is legendary, and I almost wish I had been present at the first theatrical showings just so I could have witnessed people bolt out of their chairs before the credits rolled. The entire film simmers with barely restrained rage. Rage at the economic hardships faced by Cape Bretoners. Rage at the cruelty and indifference of the companies that owned the mines. And rage at the loss of the Gaelic culture and language that followed the rapid industrialization of the island. It is a furious shriek of a film. We're introduced to Margaret McNeil, played by Carter, and Neil Curry, played by Clive Russell. Neil is a towering, free-spirited former miner who has grown to despise the mining companies littering the surrounding towns. He's musically inclined, funny, and naturally rebellious, with a deep, defiant love for his Gaelic roots. A love that leaves him at odds with his former employer.
I'm off for the bingo. What you got here?
This is Neil Curry.
He's kind of old, isn't he? Where'd you get him?
From the Bay.
Where are you from?
St. Andrew's Channel.
Never heard of it. You work in the pit?
Used to. I got fired.
Why'd they fire you?
I wouldn't talk English to the foreman.
Are you an Italian?
I'll just be back in a minute.
Well, then why'd they fire you?
I was speaking Gaelic, like our ancestors.
Oh, Christ.
Neil and Margaret hit it off immediately. But while Neil's romantic interests are clearly apparent, Margaret resists. Like Neil, she's grown to detest the mines due to the damage the industry has inflicted on her family. But she sees any entanglement with a miner, even a former one, as a risk. Her mother's even more opposed to the relationship, immediately meeting Neil with hostility. The trauma of watching family member after family member die in the mines has left her bitter, resentful, and terrified about what could happen to her daughter, all of which comes to a head in a scene that is brilliantly carried by Kate Nelligan.
It makes me laugh. It make you cry, too. It'll dig coal and make you cry. It's not like that. Oh. Then you'll have children to add to your suffering.
Christ, aren't you getting ahead of yourself? All I done is make him a pie.
That's how it starts.
If it makes you happy, I'll have 5 sons and 3 daughters. I can hear him screaming in the bagpipes, waiting to be born.
I tell you what I hear. You lose 2 sons to a shoe factory in Boston and 3 to the pit. One will die with the lungs, one from a fall of stone, and one will get shot in the face making a speech during a strike.
Well, at least you didn't curse the girls.
Oh, girls, yeah, one just like you. Turn her back on her mother, thinking no one but herself. Other one, become a nun. You know why? So she can get as far away as she can from you.
You want me never to have a family? You had a family.
Yeah, had is the right word, too. Margaret, why can't you marry a Jew down Commercial Street? They don't drink, they don't run around. You could have a real home.
All right, I'll do it. I'll marry a Jew.
And a fur coat.
Yeah. Find me a Jew that can play the bagpipe.
Oh, you go ahead and laugh! Till you're left alone in the cold. Till he comes home, falling over from drink or work. And you get to sit and watch him sleep it off.
The hostility toward mining, the anxiety and fear that accompanied a family member entering the pits, isn't merely an invention employed for dramatic effect. It's a real aspect of Cape Breton's history, a seed that planted itself in every relationship on the island.
Okay, bud. Have a good day, bud. You go, Dad. You're in bad shape tonight.
I was in the army. I had 6 years in the army, and just something drew me back here. And then I got back, and then I worked at the post office. Had a good job in the post office, delivering mail.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah, I was in there, and
Well, what in the G's you in the pit for?
Well, I don't know, eh? But it's just something there, like you go up 20 Corrie and we used to watch the cage going up and down and the miners on it and wait for the old man and you say, oh, geez, I'm going to try that, you know? Oh, the old man was going to kill me, my wife was going to leave me, you know, because, I mean, like I said, I had a good job, you know? My father didn't want none of us in the pit.
This anger and fear becomes an anchor point for every conflict in Margaret's museum, and eventually Margaret's worst fears come to pass. Despite Neil's attempts at making a name for himself without mining, he cannot escape the economic realities of the island. The need to provide for himself and Margaret is too strong, and the island is too poor. Reluctantly, he returns to the pits.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know what the cards say either. My daughters aren't going to leave me because I'm not having daughters. I'm not going to have funerals either. I'll leave those to you. See, you got another one.
What happened? He's not like the others, Mama. I can hear it in the pipes.
Oh, look at you, Mama, all scrunched up with happiness just because I'm miserable. You think I don't know why you go to those funerals? You're like an old black buzzard, waiting for widows to die so you can get your money.
You're right. We feed off each other like buzzards. That's what they've done to us.
What is less expected is that Margaret's younger brother Jimmy also accepts a job at the mine. Jimmy's uncle has been conspiring with the foreman to keep him out of the pit, wishing that the gentle, soft-spoken young boy won't be trapped underground like so many before him. Jimmy sees himself as weak, and his need to prove himself as a man, as well as the financial strain on his family, pushes him to subvert his uncle's wishes. His mother's reaction is nothing short of fury and despair.
Charlie Dave was a lot bigger than I am, wasn't he?
Hold still.
When do people stop growing?
What are you talking about?
These mining clothes were his, right? Do you think I'll be as big as he was?
Jim, will you hold still?
Hey, you called me Jim. You didn't call me Jimmy, you called me Jim.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut your mouth! Shut your mouth before I shut it for you!
It's difficult to overemphasize just how dangerous mining was. And if you're unfamiliar with places like Cape Breton, it can be easy for the reactions in these scenes to seem overly dramatic. But when you grow up in an area where some of your earliest memories include reading names carved into memorials next to two dates that seem impossibly close together, it's easy to see why such decisions would be viewed as a death sentence.
One thing about mining is if something really goes wrong, you're probably not going to get too many second chances. And it can be pretty fatal in a hurry.
You can't focus on, is this the day that I won't come back out of this hole in the ground? If you look at it that way, you'll drive yourself mad. So no matter how bad it gets you, make a joke or have some fun in some way.
I was buried, I had double fractured pelvis and 6 broken ribs. But just bounced back after that and right back at it again.
I was in an electrical explosion. And I was in the burn unit in Halifax for 9 weeks.
I ended up with a fractured skull, broken jaw, and 2 broken cheekbones. That was the worst one I had. But I survived that one too.
It's an eerie feeling when you're under a fall of stone. You can hear your brother sort of thing on top trying to dig you out. And I think the first thing that came to my mind is I could hear them talking, and I'm just worried that the roof would come in again and get these guys sort of thing. Eh? But they figured there must have been about 6 tons of stone on top of me, which I didn't realize at the time. And there's a cable carrier, and the stone just happened to hook onto that cable carrier, just enough to keep the full weight off of me. So I was very, very, very fortunate. In fact, they had called the surface and said that I was dead.
We lived handy to pit, and if there was a serious accident, you know, it seemed like the whole community would be quiet. And you see the old ambulance coming up the dirt road, and it'd be something like a lobster boat coming in a harbor in the waves, you know. It was just going through the bumps and going very, very slow. So you knew somebody was seriously hurt. And you watched for the priest or the minister as to which house he went to. And you knew it was somebody in that family.
The final act of the film walks a well-trodden path. The inevitable catastrophe, one that you can see coming from the film's opening moments, finally happens. And Margaret is left to deal with the aftermath.
Both of them? Where are they? Where? Where are they?
Fraser's truck.
Why not an ambulance?
They need those for the injured.
Where the film diverges from its predictable course is the moment Margaret insists on bringing the bodies to her home, with the excuse of needing to wash and prepare them for transport to the morgue. And it's at this moment that the weight of all that tragedy comes crashing in on her, and she breaks down in a spectacularly gruesome fashion. The shift in tone from tearjerker to horror film comes almost completely out of left field. If it wasn't for the cold open foreshadowing that something macabre is inside Margaret's museum, there would be no hint that this is where the film would leave audiences. It's also the perfect encapsulation of an entire community's apoplectic rage at the capitalist machinery that has taken so much from them. Much like the tourists that stumble into Margaret's roadside attraction, there's a sneering contempt for any audience that wants to use the history of the island as a form of escapist entertainment. The film itself lashes out at the viewer in its final moments. If this is what the storyteller has had to endure, then they will make sure that the listener walks away with some scars of their own.
Doesn't come out that easy, you know. I'm just totally devastated, and I know I'm going to take this to my grave with me. That I was this close to a pension, a month and a half away. By contract, come January, I'd be entitled to a full pension. Now I'm blown out a month and a half before January with a severance. It's a hard one to get over, I'll tell you that.
The aftershock of the mining industry's collapse in Cape Breton can still be felt today. Despite its history of labor abuses, the mines provided a stable stream of income for the island, and the loss of that income has left its mark on residents, on whole families.
While you're away, you're always worried about home and your family. You're not there for them anymore. It's not good. It's not good. No, I don't like it.
One industry that swept into town after the mines left was the telemarketing industry. And almost everyone my age, myself included, has had repeated stints at the various call centers that line the industrial area. While certainly better than being underground, the low pay, high turnover, and mind-numbing day-to-day work doesn't make for a highly desirable career path. But you make do with what you have.
Another satisfied customer. And people still ask the question, well, what happens if the mines open tomorrow, Michael?
Would you go back?
Would you go back? I wouldn't even empty my desk out. I'd just leave everything here.
You go?
I would.
I think I would too.
Yeah.
You go?
I don't know.
You wouldn't let Michael and I get ahead of you, would you?
Maybe just this once.
The scars left by the mining and steel industries aren't just economic or personal, but can be seen in the catastrophic environmental impact that the resource extraction industry left behind. These are wounds so deep and wide that they once could be seen from the air. The Sydney tar ponds is a phrase that can unite pretty much every person on the island. Almost a century old by the time I moved away, the tar ponds were the net result of Sydney's steel industry dumping its toxic coke oven runoff directly into Sydney Harbour. By the end of the 20th century, the tar ponds were widely known as the worst environmental disaster in Canadian history. Over 700,000 tons of contaminated soil could be found at the site, and it was a view that helped imprint a bleak image of the island onto the minds of the children and teenagers I grew up with. There is no better reminder of the economic state of Cape Breton than the tar ponds. And we dealt with it in the usual way. We joked about it.
Dad, I want to go to the Sydney tar ponds for March break.
I'm sorry, son, but the Sydney tar ponds are going to be filled in with concrete.
But why? Why?
Yes, there's new legislation afoot that will destroy one of Canada's most unique treasures. The Sydney tar ponds have been a Canadian landmark for 100 years. And they're home to several endangered species, like the tarry egret. And, well, the tarry egret.
But I want to see the tar.
I'm sorry, Billy, but it's Disneyland this year.
Well, then can we at least have a tire fire?
Of course we can, Tiger. Don't let a meddling bureaucracy destroy what it took a century of inaction to create. Help save the Sydney tar ponds. Because barring another corporate ecological disaster, once the tar ponds are gone, they're gone forever.
Give to Save the Tar Ponds, a subsidiary of Dominion Steel and Coal.
The tar ponds eventually developed into this weird point of bemused pride for people in the industrial area. Sure, we might be home to one of the worst environmental disasters you've ever heard of. But at least you have heard of us. One standout memory I have of Sydney is the annual appearance of the Bill Lynch Show, a touring carnival of sorts that would often set up shop in the parking lot of the Mayflower Mall. It was your typical Canadian carnival, amusement park rides, rigged carnival games, deeply questionable food choices. Honestly, it was a blast. One year, however, the carnival made a bizarre decision to set up shop next to the Sydney tar ponds. No matter where you walked on the grounds, you would hear people complaining about the smell. The large Ferris wheel located at the edge of the lot would give you a clear view of the former coke oven site. It was a baffling choice of location. I clearly remember nearing the top of the Ferris wheel when I overheard a couple above me complaining about it. I remember a woman asking, "Why on earth would anyone put a carnival here?" And I remember her boyfriend replying, "Easy. They don't want us to forget where we're from."
Haul the last basket from the mine. on an early summer's day so warm and fine. The ladies cried, miners paced the floor. This town's not a mining town no more. This town has been our life, it's been our home. We raised our children here all on our own. What the future holds, we'll wait and see. But this mining life's been awfully good to me.
You're having to go away? What?
A lot of them are. A lot of guys. A lot of guys went back to school, took trade courses and whatnot, but right now, unless this offshore stuff takes off, there's not a whole lot of work for them around here, so they're anywhere from Saskatchewan to BC, and they go out there and they work a few months of the year, and they come home for a little while, and then they're on the road again.
Work is gone, they flood the underground. Drive down 108 and out of town.
A couple of guys that worked in the pit, they went out west. I was talking to one guy there a couple of weeks ago, and he called me in 16 days. He cleared almost $6,000. Now that's pretty good money. I could go out there and probably do that. But right now, that's not for me. I like it here. This is where my roots are. I won't leave till I have to.
Can't wait to get the fuck out of here.
How far do you think we could go?
How far do you want to go?
There's a quiet, echoey kind of desolation on display in Ashley Mackenzie's 2016 film Werewolf. Starring Andrew Gillis and Brea McNeil, the film follows two methadone users as they struggle to piece their lives together amidst the economic rubble of industrial Cape Breton. Where Margaret's museum was a storm of righteous fury, Werewolf is intimate, quiet, and understated. Compositionally, it's fascinating. Subjects are frequently out of frame, there's negative space everywhere. Conversations happen with characters that never appear on screen, and it's almost too personal. It's filled with extreme close-ups that feel intrusive and violating. It wants you to feel penned in by the competing crises its protagonists are facing. The viewer is never allowed an inch of ironic distance. It's also an exhausting film, and feels much longer than its less than 90-minute run. Time seems to dilate as you watch Blaze and Nessa navigate their addiction, their lack of employment, and each other. The camera sits on scenes and objects for just a little too long, invoking the kind of fidgety impatience in the viewer that Blaze exhibits as he goes through withdrawal. None of that is a commentary on the quality of the film. It's excellent, and manages to wring all it can out of each shot, each line, and each moment. Mackenzie has gone on record stating that Blaze and Nessa are based on a real couple that were something of a folk legend in Waterford. Dubbed the lawnmower crackheads by their community, they would travel door to door offering to cut grass in the hopes of making ends meet. While the couple certainly made a great template for the two leads of the film, they're also a wider symbol of the addiction crisis that is always simmering on the island. When I was growing up, Cape Breton had the unfortunate distinction of having one of the lowest life expectancies in Canada, almost a full 5 years less than the national average. An epidemiological study conducted at the end of the 90s concluded that the health status of the island was almost a quarter century behind the rest of Canada. A combination of low wages, high unemployment, poor diet, and poor health choices have not only set Cape Bretoners up for shorter lives, but have ensured that toward the end of their lives, they'll spend, on average, 6 years struggling with long-term disabilities. The high cancer, birth defect, and miscarriage rates on the island led to a lot of us pointing fingers at the Sydney tar ponds as the toxic runoff seeped into the soil of the surrounding communities. Government studies were commissioned and largely concluded that lifestyle was the driving factor behind the island's poor health outcomes. Naturally, this was met with disbelief and deep suspicion amongst residents. But the key takeaway from the findings of these studies is that the economic collapse of the island left people in such poor shape that it was almost impossible to disentangle Cape Breton's history from the century of toxic waste floating in its streams. This provided the perfect breeding ground for the OxyContin crisis that peaked in the early 2000s. Chronic pain and the demand for ways to manage it led to widespread overprescribing of the drug, which then naturally found itself flooding the streets. The promise of easy money in an area where money is never easy lured some of the most unlikely of people into the drug trade. I remember the story of a 65-year-old grandmother who was jailed for selling oxy from her purse, and the reprimand she received from the judge for having the audacity to take the easy way out.
Are you experiencing any withdrawal symptoms?
Yeah, right now.
And how's your mood been on a scale of 1 to 10? Rating of 10 is
4.
okay. And are you experiencing any suicidal ideation, any thoughts of harming or killing yourself?
Yes.
Do you have the means to do that?
Yes.
This is the backdrop that serves as the inspiration for Werewolf. And while its bleak depiction of the industrial area is not the full picture of the community I grew up in, it is a frank and realistic portrayal of a very real part of the island's story. Nessa and Blaze appear haunted in every scene, and apart from their next methadone dose or the next small influx of cash they can get from mowing lawns, they have no goals to speak of, no long-term vision that will carry them out of drug dependency and poverty. Their relationship naturally begins to fracture over the course of the film.
We're leaving soon anyway.
Would you just fucking stop talking about that?
You said we're leaving soon.
And you're still talking about it.
Yeah? We're supposed to be leaving soon.
Can we just fucking talk about something else? Jesus fucking Christ, Vanessa!
The first time you see the couple mowing a lawn, they're mowing together, side by side, each with both hands on the mower, equally sharing the burden together. But by the 15-minute mark, Nessa is pushing the lawnmower herself as Blaze watches from the sidelines. And it's in these moments you see the clear difference between the two of them. Blaze has surrendered to despair, refusing to take responsibility for his situation, and frequently allows his own pride and cynicism to get in the way of taking any steps forward. Nessa has more drive and more hope. It's not much, but it allows her to navigate the frustrating, complex, and underfunded support programs as best she can, and she's willing to scratch and claw her way through every setback and accept any amount of money, no matter how she comes by it.
We can do the whole thing for 15. That's better.
No, it's like as low as we can go. I don't really know you, and you know what? I'd rather give you $5, and then I wouldn't be worried about other things.
Yeah, we're pretty worried about that too ourselves, actually.
Pretty worried about what?
Peace of mind, security.
Yeah. I guess the best I can do, not knowing you, is I'm willing to give you $5 and send you on your way.
You can take it if you want it. I'm not putting it in my pocket.
No, but I'll bet you darn well use it when she takes it.
Nessa eventually manages to secure herself a job at a Tasty Treat, which was an actual real-life ice cream parlor in Cape Breton. While she begins to sweep up the broken shards of her life and piece them back together, Blaze continues to spiral, going so far as to steal Nessa's take-home methadone and almost overdosing in the process. As his addiction gets worse, his role in the story begins to shift from protagonist to antagonist. Nessa steps into the center of the film, and Blaze becomes the primary obstacle left for her to overcome. The scene where Nessa finally decides to save herself is a difficult one to watch. Blaze has hit rock bottom, and it's clear that he's losing his battle with addiction. As a support worker tells her early in the film, it's not Nessa's responsibility to keep Blaze alive. As viewers, this is the last time we'll see him, and we follow her as she walks out of his life. There is no indication as to what will happen to Blaze in the end, though the film sets him up for the worst outcome. Nessa's ending is only marginally better. She returns to the ice cream parlor to lean on the meager income it will provide her. There's no triumphant moment here. She looks only marginally less miserable than she has the entire time we've watched her. But then it happens. A barely perceptible shift. She lifts her head once, then again, and then we cut to black. Some victories can barely be seen from the outside, but they're victories nevertheless. Werewolf's final moments lack any real catharsis. Nessa has a long road ahead of her, and we've witnessed only a small slice of her story. It's entirely possible that she goes back to Blaze, or relapses. There's any number of tragic ends to her story, but there's hope, and that's enough for now. I remember the first time I watched Werewolf, sitting in a kind of emotional fog while the credits rolled. So much of what I had just watched felt familiar, even though addiction wasn't something that touched me directly. And then there was the closing theme. A scratchy, lo-fi, off-kilter punk song. I had no idea who the artist was, but it was immediately arresting, and had the same air of detached mourning that was so strong in the rest of the film. The same air of detached mourning that felt uniquely Cape Breton. Love Letter Ballad was one of the handful of mess folk songs I spent the next couple of days listening to on repeat. A staple of the Cape Breton punk scene, Philip Tarr, and yes, Tarr is his real last name, was known for his astonishingly dark lyricism and prolific output, even though very little of that output is available on modern streaming services. A quick online search later, and I was surprised to find a short interview he did with Vice. What didn't surprise me was the title of the interview. The interview is near microscopic, but in less than 400 words, Tarr embodies the same misanthropic fatalism that I remember from friends and family growing up. I can hear 1,000 different voices from my childhood in his description of the island. I see it as this. I haven't been anywhere else, really. Sydney is a very drab, dead city. The tar ponds is just a big pit of sludge and waste. And it's toxic, yeah? You don't want to go swimming there, or you'll get a fucking third arm or something. The tar ponds sum up how I feel in this town. It is a big cesspool of crap. It's boring. Nothing is happening. Everyone is moving away. The population is decreasing. There aren't that many people my age as there used to be. Almost everyone I know has either moved away or plans to move away. The interviewer asks, "Do you think you'll always live there?" And he replies, "No, but I will come back here to die. It's a suitable hole to die in." From what I could gather, This little interview caused a bit of a stir locally, with residents of Sydney responding with not entirely unjustified frustration at Tara's comments. I get it. So much of how people from away talk about Cape Breton is like this, and it can be tiring to hear these sentiments from one of your own. But it is how I remember young people around me talking about their experiences of growing up, how they voiced their exasperation with every roadblock they encountered. Still, Cape Breton is built on struggle, and it has built and rebuilt itself over and over again. After every storm, after every flood, after every collapse. And it feels unjust for all that hard work to go unrecognized. Cape Breton is the epitome of the phrase, "I didn't hear no bell." Our history is one of hardship, tragedy, and exploitation. But our culture tells us to mine those experiences for stories, for music, for humor. It is the material that we build with, the drink that fills our cups. We set our traumas on display at kitchen parties and ceilidhs and dance around them, or mock them, or honor them. For some, our paths lead us away from home, away from kin, and toward places and futures that we hope serve us better. For others, those hardships are a call to defiantly plant our feet in the ground, to refuse to give up another inch. Some of us falter in ways that are calamitous, and some of us succeed in ways that are scarcely noticeable. But every one of us is the same. We stand, we fight, we keep swinging, even after some of us fall. As Kate Beaton said, Cape Breton is a have-not region in a have-not province. A place where our art and history are wound inextricably around pain and sorrow. A place where people learn to sing and cry at the same time. Where even our humor feels less like telling jokes and more like comparing scars. And yet,
the infamous Sydney tar ponds in Cape Breton are set to reopen as a park today. The cleanup took 4 years and cost $400 million. The CBC's Wendy Martin has more from Sydney, Nova Scotia.
You think that's a sign?
Yeah, it's a sign your house is gone.
I think that's a sign.